Good evening everyone. Today we will be discussing the essay topic asked in 2023 exam, that is inspiration for creativity springs from the effort to look for magical in the mundane. So in this lecture we will be discussing it thoroughly in detail. We will be first saying the meaning of various terms, then the process of creativity and how it inspires creativity, as well as the skills, the abilities required to observe the magical in the mundane. So let's start with understanding the key terms or the meaning of the essay. First is the inspiration for creativity, second is springs from, third is the effort to look for magical in the mundane. So if we divide, this is the first thing, inspiration for creativity, this is second thing, springs from, and this is the third thing, the effort to look for the magical in the mundane is the fourth thing. So let's understand key terms one by one, then we will be going into the detail. So if we see mundane, what is mundane? Mundane is something which is ordinary, which is regular day-to-day life things, which is not interesting. It can be boring also. You can write it can be boring, not exciting. That is mundane. Ordinary things, day-to-day life things, not uninteresting things. You can think it as everyday occurrences. What is magical? Just the opposite of mundane, that is, it can be extraordinary, it can be exciting, it can be interesting, it can be amazing, fascinating, captivating. Something which is unique, that is magical, that is mundane and that is magical. It can have a spatial effect, a spatial quality. A good example for this is, to understand, can be a bamboo and a flute. If you see a bamboo, a regular bamboo is very mundane, nothing great about it, nothing extraordinary about it, very regular stuff, not interesting at all. But if you make flute out of it, it is what? It is magical. The ability to see that flute can be made from the bamboo, that is what is the effort to look for the magical in the mundane. So the demand of the essay is the ability to see that the idea that flute can be made out of the bamboo, that is magical in the mundane. So this, through this example you can easily understand that what is magical and what is mundane. The next thing is springs from. What does it mean? Springs from means to start from, or to come from, or to emerge from. You can interpret this way. So basically the essay is saying that the effort to look for magical in the mundane leads to the inspiration for creativity. Basically the inspiration for creativity start from the ability or the effort to look for magical in the mundane. It comes from that, or it emerges from that. So basically This effort to look for magical in the mundane, it serves as what? Stimulus. It stimulates our mind, it inspires our mind to think for something creative. It gives those ideas to think creatively. So it stimulates, it sparks, I say, this sparks creativity. This inspires creativity, this sparks creativity, it stimulates the mind to think creatively. So that is the essence of this, that springs from the effort to look for magical in the mundane leads to inspiration for creativity. Next thing is, what is creativity and what is the process of creativity? If we see creativity, what is creativity? Creativity is the ability to produce or develop new things, new ideas, new products, new music, new poem, new painting, new photography. It can be anything, but it should be what? It should be new. Ability to produce or develop new ideas, new product, new ideas, new work, new creations. It can be in any of the fields, and the condition for creativity is it should be original. Creativity demands originality. It demands originality. The ideas should be original. The product should be original. It should not be a copy paste thing. It can be in any number of the field. It can be in scientific field, it can be in the field of civil engineering, architecture, painting, any number of the field. Now if we see the inspiration for creativity, if we see the process of creativity, we see the process of creativity, there is a psychologist, Graham Wallace. He was the first person to document the process of creativity in his book, The Art of Thought. And what does he says? His book is Art of Thought. In his book, he says the first stage is preparation. For creativity, the first stage is preparation. The second stage is incubation. The third stage is illumination. And the fourth stage is verification. So he was the first person, first psychologist to come up with this process of creativity. Basically, he has said that there are 4 stages. In preparation, what happens? This is the place where inspiration for creativity happens. It can be from any of the sources, but inspiration for creativity happens in the first step. So this essay is basically about the beginning of the process of creativity. That is, the inspiration of creativity springs from. So when you are able to see magical in the mundane, what will happen? You will get inspired for creativity. So the first step of creativity happens here. Here you will get the idea, you will do the thinking. So here you will get the ideas from most unexpected places. And when you have got the idea, you will think over it. So this is the process for thinking. So inspiration and thinking wala part will be there in this preparation. In incubation, what happens that you take a step back. You take a step back from this idea and you let your subconscious mind think over that. And in this process, diverse ideas are linked together, because whenever creativity happens, it always happens when different ideas from different fields come together. Suppose there is an architect, he will take an idea from nature and he will integrate that with the field of architecture. Suppose there is a mechanical engineer, he will take an idea from outside and he will integrate that with his project. So the diverse ideas are linked together in the phase of incubation, where you allows your mind to rest. You allows your mind to rest. And the subconscious mind works on connecting those ideas. Here you take focus away from the problem. You are finding new ways to link these ideas. What are the new ways to link these ideas? The third stage is illumination. This is the stage which is called also as the eureka moment. What Archimedes had said, eureka, I have found it. Suddenly you get that idea for which you have been working. Suddenly that strikes you, and that too when you are performing something unrelated. Maybe you are walking, maybe you are taking a shower, maybe you are eating, and suddenly that idea comes for which you have been waiting. So this is that eureka stage about which Archimedes felt. And the next stage is verification. When your product is ready, when your creation is ready, then you test it, whether it is right or wrong, whether it is worthwhile or not, whether it will be able to provide a solution or not. If you see creativity, it can be for n number of reasons. It can be for finding solution to a problem. It can be in response to a challenge. It can also be for the sake of creativity. You are creating something new, you got an idea and you started working on that. So this is the process of creativity. So this essay is only about the first thing, that is the inspiration for creativity. This is not talking about these stages. We have to restrict ourselves to only the first step, that is inspiration for creativity. By looking at this, you may be thinking that all the creations happen through these 4 stages only, but this is not true. The process of creativity is not linear. Maybe he has tried to make it linear so that we are able to understand this process, but often the process of creativity is very spiral, very zigzag. It is not linear. Maybe from first step you directly go to third step, maybe from second you directly go to 4. It can happen in any number of ways, but yes, in general this is the first model which was proposed and is still being followed for the process of creativity. And examples of creativity can be patents, copyrights. All these things are about creative thing. All these are inventions which are being patented or for which copyrights are being granted. And if you see the creative things, there are one thing, as I told you, originality is one thing. Then second thing is there is an element of surprise. There is an element of non-obviousness. If creation is obvious, how can it be creation? So other than originality, it should be non-obvious. It should have an element of surprise. Any creative thing. Moving to the next thing, once we have understood the process of creativity, if you take the examples of creativity, all the things around which fascinates us, like suppose in architecture if you see the Eiffel Tower, suppose in physics if you take the theory of relativity, Suppose in painting you take the Mona Lisa painting. All these are what? All these are examples of creativity. All these are examples of new things, things which fascinates us, excites us, which makes us think about the process, how it has happened, which makes us curious. Now coming to the topic, once we have understood the process, it will be easy to understand this topic. So the topic is inspiration for creativity springs from ability to look for magical, or the effort to look for magical in the mundane. So if you take the mundane things, you can divide this mundane thing also in two parts. One is natural and one is man-made. The mundane can be also of two types, natural and man-made. So we take lot of ideas from nature. Question may arise, the first question which should arise in your mind is, why do we take so many ideas from nature? The reason is, if we see our earth, it has evolved over a period of 3.8 billion years. It has evolved over a period of 3.8 billion years. And this is the enough time to do R&D in nature. So there is lot of research and development which has happened with evolution in nature itself. Because of that, nature has two things, beauty along with efficiency. Nature has two things, beauty along with efficiency, and that is the reason why we borrow ideas, why we take ideas from nature. Because 3.8 billion years is a lot of time for evolution, and lot of R&D has happened in the process of evolution in nature, and because of this, nature is very efficient along with being beautiful, being wonderful, and that is the reason why we take ideas from nature. So first is this, why do we take ideas from nature? Why we mimic nature? So first is this, that ability to observe magical in the mundane, in the nature, in the natural things. Now second thing is, from nature, what all ideas we take? We can take the idea in the form of the natural shape, the shape which is existing in nature, the structure which is existing in nature. We may be able to see magic in that shape, and taking inspiration from that shape, we create something new. So one thing would be the shape or structure which is existing in nature. You see that shape and structure, and you are able to see something magical in them. You are able to derive some idea from them. It sparks your creativity that yes, this idea, this shape can be imitated, this can be utilized for some other project. So one is shape and structure. A good example can be in this, the example of orange, and how it inspired the Sydney Opera House. So basically, we are taking an idea from the nature. We are able to see something magical in the orange, which is very mundane thing. What happened that the architect John He was a Danish architect and he had got the project for construction of Sydney Opera House. So what happened? John Utsajan, he was once eating orange, and while eating orange, the idea struck him while peeling the orange that each of the orange pieces can be in the form of the structures of Sydney Opera House. And that was the ability, what essay is saying, the effort to look for. That was his effort. The effort to look for magical in a simple orange, which is a very mundane thing. So you can see this. This is what? This is a very mundane thing. This is an orange. And from this, he derived the idea for Sydney Opera House, which is one of the most fascinating and captivating architecture of 20th century world. But the idea, the inspiration is coming from where? From a simple orange. Because he was given a project to construct this and he was working on this idea, and one day when he was eating orange, it struck him that can the architecture of this Sydney Opera House can be in the form of the pieces of orange, and these are the cells. If you count, there are 14 cells, and if you join together, they will again form the orange, that is the whole sphere. And this was the idea from which he took inspiration. So this essay is about this only, that you take inspiration from very mundane thing. You are making effort to see the magic in the mundane, and from there you take inspiration. Basically, this orange provided him the spark, provided him the stimulus to make this creative building, and for that he got lot of prizes as well. In fact, the highest prize, Pulitzer Prize of Architecture, has also been awarded to him for this Sydney Opera House. So first thing which we were discussing about the shape, that is the shape of orange inspires Sydney Opera House. In the same way, you can take example of kingfisher. If you take the example of kingfisher, this is a story of Eiji Nakatsu. Eiji Nakatsu, the Japanese engineer, he had been working on the bullet train, and one fine day when they were working on bullet train and they realized that because of the high speed of bullet train, which is around 250 to 300 km per hour, tunnel boom is being created. That is, whenever the train is passing through the tunnel and exiting the tunnel, lot of noise is being created, which is disturbing the wildlife over there, which is disturbing the people residing over there, as well as lots of wastage of energy, because as you know, energy is neither created nor destroyed, so lot of wastage of sound energy. So this Eiji Nakatsu, the Japanese engineer, he was also a bird watcher, a bird lover. So one fine day he was seeing, he was sitting beside the ocean and he saw a kingfisher taking dive into the ocean to catch its prey, the fish. And when he saw the kingfisher, he saw that when it went inside the sea, it did not even make a splash. It went so silently, and the fish were unable to see how the kingfisher was able to catch them without any notice, without any attention. And that was the time he realized that if the kingfisher can make a splash in the ocean without making any sound, why can't bullet trains can also enter the tunnel and exit the tunnel without making any noise? And deriving inspiration from this kingfisher, they were able to design the front portion of the bullet train like the beak, the narrow beak of the kingfisher. So if you see this photograph, this is the kingfisher. Taking inspiration from this narrow beak of the kingfisher, the front portion, the nose of the bullet train has been designed. What is this? Kingfisher is a very mundane thing, very normal thing. Every day we come across such birds, but the ability or the effort to see the magic in the mundane, that leads to what? That leads to the creation of front portion of bullet train, and because of this the bullet train is making less noise and it is also energy efficient. The speed increased, energy consumed decreased, and the sound also decreased a lot. So that this is the inspiration, basically the mundane thing, the normal thing which inspired the design of the bullet train. So what we have been discussing, first is we are taking the idea of shape or structure from the nature. Second thing that we learn from nature, we take a lot of ideas from nature. The second thing that we learn is the process. We observe the process of nature, we see the process of nature, and in that process we are able to see something magical, and out of that comes the creativity or the inspiration for creativity, the spark for creativity. For example, if you take ants and their ability to communicate, this is called swarm intelligence. This is called swarm intelligence. If you take this ants, this is the process, right? This is a very normal process, very mundane process. But now the scientists, the engineers are studying this ability of ants, their collective intelligence or their swarm intelligence, that how they communicate among themselves, and they are utilizing this for what? For communication between autonomous cars. Communication between autonomous cars. So we are trying to mimic, we are trying to imitate, we are trying to learn from the process which is happening in the nature, and this ability to communicate is being utilized for what? For communication between the autonomous cars. Why? Because there are chances that these autonomous cars, these cars, driverless cars which are being driven by AI, they may crash, they may collide. So to stop that, they are utilizing this process. So we are also able to see the magical thing in the mundane process of the nature. For example, if you see this is the movement of ant, how the ants move, and from this the autonomous vehicles, we are able to develop a software which coordinates among the autonomous cars to avoid crashes, avoid damages, avoid accidents. So this is the process of the movement or the communication of ants. So the idea is, from nature we do not just take the structures, we also take the process of the nature and we try to develop something creative, something new from that. So second thing that we learn from nature is the process. And third thing is the whole ecosystem. Whole ecosystem. So this is how you have to write in essay, that when you write we are seeing magical in the mundane, then and you are taking nature, then you write that from the shape of the nature, from the structure of the nature, second from the process of the nature, and third from the ecosystem itself. How? If you take forests, it is said that nothing goes waste in forest. Nothing goes waste in forests. And since our whole economic model has been based on the model of consumption, our whole economic model has been creating a lot of chaos, lot of pollution in the world, global warming, climate change, all these things are happening, and lot of wastes are being created, whether it is plastic waste, electronic waste, all these landfills coming up for solid waste, liquid waste, all these things are happening. So now what we are doing is, we are talking about circular economy. Circular economy is what? Circular economy is nothing but we are trying to derive inspiration from forest. So basically this is that mundane thing in which we are able to see the magic. The circular economy, the whole concept of circular economy emerges from where? From the forests, because nothing goes waste in forest. And from this circular economy talks about 6R: reduce, reuse, recycle, refurbish, repair, recover. All these are coming from where? From the forest. So we are trying to imitate, or we are trying to derive something from the nature in the terms of whole ecosystem. So as we saw, we can see shape and we derive something from that. We can see the natural process, we can see the natural ecosystem, and from all the three we are able to derive some magical ideas, some magical things, which becomes the inspiration for our creativity. In addition to this, there is another thing which nature does, and that is the unique things of the nature, or the secrets of nature. So these were the things which we were mimicking, which basically what is called biomimicking. So we are learning a lot of ideas from the mundane things, but there can be another things which we can call the secrets of nature. And when you start questioning them, that is called observational curiosity. So basically the effort to look for magical in the mundane can come only with the observational curiosity. When you observe things very clearly with awareness, then only you will be able to take ideas from them. For example, when you have observational curiosity, you observe a lot of things in the nature, and a good example for this is the example of Newton and C.V. Raman. Both of them became very curious that how that natural thing was happening, how that natural process was happening. So trying to learn the process of nature. Apple had been falling on the earth since ages, but it took Newton to observe and question that why apples are falling down, why they are not going up. And this, the mundane thing of falling apple, becomes magical. It led to the discovery of gravity, which is nothing sort of very creative thing. So the Newton and his discovery of law of gravity, which is the creation, which is the creativity, comes from where? Comes from the nature, from the very mundane act of falling apple leads to the discovery of law of gravity. In the same way, if we take the example of C.V. Raman, in 1921, C.V. Raman was traveling in a sea voyage, and while in the ship, he realized that why everything around him is blue, why the sky is blue, why the ocean is blue, why everything around him is blue. And when he realized that, he started questioning, and he started trying to find out the answer for that. And this observational curiosity, this questioning by C.V. Raman led to what? Led to the discovery of Raman effect on a scattering of light. So from nature, it is not just that we mimic things. Through our observational curiosity, we try to understand nature, we try to understand the processes of nature. Through our curiosity, through our ability to question, through our ability to observe. And when we try to see that, it leads to what? It leads to discoveries, it leads to creations, it leads to new ideas, new processes, new discoveries. So this can be another examples that how the secrets of nature unravel when we start observing mundane things, when we start finding magical in the mundane, and it leads to discoveries which are nothing but examples of creativity. In the same way, one more thing that may be coming into your mind, that when we do creativity, what is the purpose? The purpose can be the desire to find out solution of a problem. The purpose can be the desire to overcome a challenge. The purpose can be simply to take design ideas from nature. So it can be anything. For example, when COVID happened and everybody was looking for COVID vaccine, so it was a problem, it was a challenge, and in response to that we had a number of vaccines. So the purpose can be the challenge, problem, or for the sake of creativity. It can be anything. Similarly, if we see the mundane things in man-made things, magical things in man-made things, this was all about natural things from where we are learning. We are learning from the shape of the nature. We are learning from the process of the nature. We are able to learn from the whole ecosystem. And this is the process of biomimicking. But we can also see magic in the man-made things. We can also see magic in the man-made things. And that can also lead to what? That can also lead to creativity. That can also lead to creation of something which is unique, which is fascinating, which is captivating, which is exciting. If you take the examples in the field of observational comedy, this observational comedy, if you see, it is mostly about what? It is mostly about the day-to-day life, day-to-day things which are happening around us. But what comedians do? They are making an effort to see magic, and in those mundane moments, they are able to see magic in those day-to-day events, and they create comedy out of that, which makes us laugh at very ordinary things, very normal things, very routine things. That is creativity. And from where they are deriving inspiration? From very mundane acts. And a good example for this is, in fact, all the comedians are like this. Raju Srivastav. If you see his comedies, all these are mostly inspired from our day-to-day thing. In fact, one of his comedy about the wedding day is very interesting and very humorous, and it is all coming from observational comedy. The efforts or the ability to look for magical in the mundane. In the same thing, if we see the example in the field of music, if you see the example in the field of music, R.D. Burman or Pancham Da, he had a very unique quality to see the magical in the mundane, and he used to create music out of that. For example, there is a Hindi song, Chura Liya Hai Tumne Jo Dil Ko, and if you listen to that song, the music, initial music, it comes from striking a spoon into the glass, striking a spoon with the glass. Now glass and a spoon, see, glass and a spoon, these are such mundane things, such ordinary things, such normal things. We do not even care about them. But he was able to create music. He was able to compose music out of that. He was deriving inspiration from where? From the striking of a spoon and glass. And from there he is able to see magic, and that leads to creativity, which is composing of the music. So if you listen to this song, Chura Liya Hai Tumne Jo Dil Ko, you can easily see. In the same way, there is another music director, O.P. Nayyar. If you see O.P. Nayyar and his songs, there is a famous music that he used to compose, that is Tonga beats. What is Tonga beats? Basically, when the horses run on the road, they make a particular kind of noise. Basically, जो टाप है घोड़े की चलने से जो आती है, जो आवाज आती है, the sound which comes from the movement of horse, he is taking those sounds in his songs and he is composing Tonga beats. See, the movement of horse is a very regular thing, very mundane things we do not even care about, but he is able to derive inspiration from that. He is able to see magic in those footsteps of the horse, and from there he is composing Tonga beats, which is nothing sort of magical. So this is the demand of that essay, that how we are how we are making efforts to look for the magical in the mundane, and from there we are able to create something. We are able to create new ideas, new songs, new music, new photographs, new paintings. It can be any new things. In the same way, if you take literature, in the same way, if you can take literature, in the field of literature, we have both poems as well as we have novels. So whether they are the story writers or they are the poets, if you read about them, you will find that they are taking the ideas from our day-to-day life, from our mundane acts, and they are able to compose poems, they are able to compose stories, they are able to write stories. And a good example for this, if you take Premchand, the Hindi novelist, in childhood we had read in Hindi his stories of Hira and Moti, Do Bail. See, Bail is very mundane thing, the oxes are very mundane thing, there is nothing great about them, but then to write a story which touches our heart using those oxes is very magical thing. That is the inspiration for creativity. In the same way, if you see his stories, his novels, it's mostly about the peasants, mostly about the farmers, they are about the clerks, they are about the laborers. All are what? They are all very ordinary things about which we do not give a damn. And he is taking inspiration, he is able to see magic in them, and from taking inspiration from that, he is able to compose novels. In the same way, you can take examples of poets. If I take Hindi poets, one of my favorite is Dushyant Kumar, and when he write about hunger, bhook is a very ordinary thing in this country. At present also, India's rank in global hunger index is more than 100. We do not care much about it, but he writes, bhook hai to sabr kar, roti nahi to kya hua. If you have hunger, wait. If you don't have bread, wait. Aajkal Delhi mein hai jere bahas ye mudda. These days in Delhi, there is a talk, there is a discussion going on these topics. Maybe in parliament, they are discussing on these issues. So, bhook hai to sabr kar. Now, taking that idea, the idea of hunger, which is a very mundane thing, he is able to create something new, a poetry which strikes at the heart of the people who read it, who feel that they should do something about those who are hungry, they should contribute something towards that. So basically the idea is he is deriving is from very mundane thing and then making it magical, and that becomes what? That becomes the basis for his creativity, that becomes the basis for his poem, which is nothing but creativity, that inspires his poetry. So all the poems and novels, if you see, most of them are inspired from where? From very mundane acts which we do not care about, towards which we are indifferent or we do not pay attention to, and that leads to what? Creative things. In the same way, if you see photography, photography is all about what? Seeing magic in the mundane. Before seeing the photograph, you see this. This is a photograph by the famous photographer Saul Letter, and Saul Letter says, I happen to believe in simple things and the beauty of simple things. I believe that the most uninteresting thing can be interesting. The whole essay he is able to summarize in his this quote, that most uninteresting thing can be interesting. Basically, it is our ability. Are we making efforts to see magic in the mundane? And that is what he is saying, that I believe in simple things and the beauty of simple things. Now you see his photograph. In this photograph, there is nothing which is not simple, which is not ordinary. There are two postmen who are going to deliver the ducks. There is this Coca-Cola thing. This is rain is happening. All these things are very mundane things, but the creativity is in seeing magic in the mundane. He is able to capture them in such a way that it becomes creative. It shows a different picture. It is able to fascinate us and it is able to create a new impact, and that is all about photography. So all the photography, if you see, they have that angle, they have that vision to see magic in the mundane, which leads to all the photographic creativity. Similarly, if you see this photograph by Ellen Scalar, this is a very regular stuff. All of us travel in metros and go through these type of situations, but his ability, his angle to take this photograph, make it very impactful, make it very unique, make it very fascinating. So all the photography, if you see, their attempt is to see magic in the mundane, and from there they create this photographic things. And all photography is what? It is nothing but the arts of creativity. It is just the viewpoint, the ability to look, the perspective to look, that makes photography creative, and they find magic in the mundane things. So another thing which you could have written is photography, the whole field of photography. So basically now we are deriving inspiration from where? We are able to see magic where? In the man-made things which are mundane, not just nature. We can take ideas from man-made things also, and there are a number of examples of this. Now coming to the last part of this essay, if we are able to see magic in the mundane, then what are the qualities required? Can everybody see magic in the mundane? What are the qualities? What are the qualities required? See magic in mundane. Because why only few artists, why only few scientists, why only few poets are able to see magic in the mundane? Why all of us are not able to see? Why we are not able to see magic in the mundane and derive inspiration from that for creativity? So there must be some qualities which distinguishes these scientists, these creative minds from us. So what are those qualities? One quality that is the root of creativity is ability to look deeply. The ability to look deeply. They are able to see the invisible things. The invisible things. Things which are not obvious, that is beyond obvious. Things which are not obvious, things which are invisible, they are able to see them. So one is the ability to look deeply. Second thing is paying attention to the details. Paying attention to details. Third thing, as we discussed, is observational curiosity. You observe the things and then you raise questions to understand those things, like Newton, like C.V. Raman. So the observational curiosity, do you have that? The next thing that can be is sharpening our sense of awareness. Sharpening our sense of awareness. Are we aware about the things which are around us? Are we aware about those things which are happening around us? Are our senses of awareness are so sharpened that we are able to see things, able to observe things, able to take things in their perspective, in the right perspective? The next thing can be living in the present moment, or what is called mindfulness. Living in the present. As Buddha says that people either live in the present, or they live in the future, or they live in the past. We do not live in the present. whenever we are doing something, we should do it 100%. We should give our best. We should not think about the past or the future. We should come out of the fear of the past, fear of the future, and we should focus on what is happening in the present. So we should be mindful. We should be living in the present. So we should be aware about this. The next thing which can be there is the respect, which is very important, the respect or appreciation for ordinary. The respect or appreciation for ordinary. Why this is important? Because unless you do not have respect for the ordinary, unless you do not have respect for the mundane things, the regular things, you will never be able to see magic in them. So you must have respect and appreciation for ordinary things. Then only you will be able to see magic in the mundane. So this is also very important, because if you see the story of Premchand, it's all about the mundane things, because he used to respect the ordinary things a lot. In fact, most of the stories he has derived is based on his interaction with the ordinary people, based on his communication with the farmers, with the laborers, with the clerks, and from there he is able to get insights, and then he write beautiful stories. So the idea is you should have respect and appreciation for the ordinary or the mundane. Then only you will be able to see magic. Otherwise, you will reject them as ordinary and you will never pay attention to the detail. The next thing, as we have been discussing, that we derive or we take a lot of ideas from nature. And as we saw in biomimicking, we are imitating the process, the shape, the whole ecosystem thing from the nature. So what is important is love and respect for nature. Only when you have love and respect for nature, that you will be able to observe the nature, you will be able to spend time in the nature, you will be able to see magical things in the mundane in nature. Like Issey Nakatsu, if he was not a bird lover, if he was not watching the kingfisher take dive for its prey, he would have been able to discover, or would he been able to copy that, imitate that, biomimic that beak of the kingfisher for bullet train? Answer is no. So we should spend time in nature, we should love the nature, we should respect the nature, we should spend time in nature, we should preserve the nature. So these are the things which we require to derive magical ideas from the mundane things. And coming to the last part of this essay, what we can conclude is, before conclusion, what we have seen from beginning is what is mundane, what is magic, what is creativity, what is the process of creativity. The first process of creativity, the first stage is inspiration for creativity. And from there we have been taking a lot of examples, like mundane things can be in nature, mundane things can be man-made as well. And taking inspiration from that, a lot of creative things have happened. Then we saw what are the abilities we require to observe magical in the mundane. Coming to the last part, a number of thinkers, philosophers have said that there is nothing mundane, nothing magical, nothing interesting, nothing uninteresting. It is just our ability to see which make things interesting and uninteresting. In this respect, you can quote W.B. Yeats. He says, the world is full of magical things. In conclusion, you can write, the world is full of magical things. The world is full of magical things, waiting for our senses to grow sharper. Waiting for our senses to grow sharper. Who said this? W.B. Yeats. So basically he is saying there are a lot of magical things in the world, lot of things which are full of magic in the world, exciting, captivating, fascinating, but only when our senses grow sharper, that we are able to see them, we are able to observe them. In the same way, Einstein says that creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. So basically, everybody see the same thing, but when you start thinking over that, when you start thinking something new about that, then only the process of creativity starts. And who says this? Einstein says this. So this quote can also be relevant for this essay. Creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen. Creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking that nobody else has does. Thinking that nobody else has thought. So one of the greatest creative mind of the world, Einstein says this, his theory of relativity is one of the fascinating example of creativity. But what he says, that thinking that nobody else has thought. So basically you will have to develop the ability to observe, the ability to think deeply, observe deeply. Then only you will be able to see magic in the mundane things, and then you will be able to derive inspiration from that to create something new. And that new can be anything. It can be in the field of architecture, it can be in the field of literature, it can be in the field of photography, painting, anything can be there. So you can end this essay with this only, that there is nothing interesting, there is nothing uninteresting. It is just our ability to see which makes all the difference. So that's all for today in this essay discussion. We will be coming with next essay discussion next time. Thank you.